You are live. You're live.
All right, thank you. This is a committee of conference on the FY 2023 budget. And our first item, and we have Ameren here as well, and that is we have that section reserved for Pay Act, and we have the Pay Act language that we will be inserting in the budget itself. So Ameren, is this, I'm just wondering who wants to present this. I know that Senate GovOps has reviewed it, and normally we just sort of put this language in. So if you want to just give us a quick run through of what we're being asked to insert here.
Certainly. For the record, Ameren Averdale Legislative Council. So you should have in front of you some Pay Act language for H.740 draft 1.7. This the format of this goes back to the more traditional two fiscal year pay acts from prior to the pandemic. So you'll see section 1 is for funding the first and second year of the collective bargaining agreements between the state and the SCA and the Vermont Troopers Association. Subsection A is for fiscal year 23 and subsection B is for fiscal year 24. You'll see for fiscal year 23, this is for an average 1.9% step increase and a 3% across the board increase for a total of a 4.9% increase, plus a one-time cash payment of $1,500. For fiscal year 2024, you'll see this is for funding an average 1.9 step increase and a 2% across the board increase for a total of a 3.9% increase, plus a one-time cash payment of $1,000. So those are for funding the collective bargaining agreements for classified state employees. Section 2 is concerning exempt employees or salary increases. You'll see subsection A is for fiscal year 2023, subsection B is for fiscal year 2024, and this section permits the executive, judicial, and legislative branches to extend the provisions of the collective bargaining agreements to employees not covered by the bargaining agreements as they determined to be appropriate and in accordance with the appropriations provided to each branch. Is this an okay level of detail?
Yes, it's more than, it's fine. Thank you.
Okay.
It's great.
If it's too much, just let me know. Section 3, this is for exempt agency and department heads, deputies, and executive assistants, annual salary, specific to annual salary adjustment and special salary increases or bonuses. Subsection A is for fiscal year 2023. This would provide for a maximum of a 4.9% increase consistent with the collective bargaining agreements. And then for fiscal year 2024 in subsection B, a maximum 3.9% increase. In section 4, you'll see that this is updating the statutory annual salary provisions for elective officers of the executive branch. You'll see the left two columns are being repealed. This is fiscal year 21 and 22, and then the addition of the two right-hand columns for fiscal years 2023 and 2024. And that continues down in subdivision 1 towards the bottom of page 4. This adjusts the base salary listed in statutes for department heads and agency heads. Again, repealing the fiscal year 21 and 22 base amounts and putting in the fiscal year 2023 and 2024 in the two right-hand columns. So that goes on for a stretch all the way over to page 8.
And then we get to the judiciary. Now to read this board, I guess.
Before we get to judiciary, I wanted to point out two small items on page 8, subdivision 2. There's the repeal of some language concerning the director of the Office of Professional Regulation. This is because this language was specific to the salary for an exempt director of OPR. Last year, the General Assembly transitioned the director of OPR from an exempt position to a classified position. So that language is being removed from here. And then on page 9, you'll see the repeal of the $150,000 maximum salary for the Commissioner of Health, and inputting 100% above the base salary of this position to remove that monetary amount from statute so that it then just becomes a percentage of base, which is how it is done for the department and agency heads. So yes, then section 5 is the judicial branch. You'll see once again, removing those fiscal 2021 and 2022 annual salary amounts and inputting the fiscal year 23 and 24 amounts. Section 6 is for assistant judges, updating those amounts in statute for fiscal year 23 and 24. Section.
I'll do that next. And I could have served in all 3 branches of government.
What?
Run for assistant judge.
Yeah,
Dave Jackson, sure.
why don't you just get appointed to a judge?
Oh, that's an idea. Sorry, Ameren. I'm just pursuing my
Why run?
run. Oh, okay. We'll just keep going. We're on to probate now.
Yes, so probate judges in section 7, once again, removing those fiscal year 21 and 22 annual salary amounts from statute and inputting the fiscal year 23 and 24. And then section 8 is going into the statutory salaries for sheriffs. Those are being updated once again for fiscal year 23 and fiscal year 24. In section 9, updating the statutory salary amounts for state's attorneys, removing fiscal year 21 and 22 from statute, adding fiscal year 23 and 24. And then lastly, section 10 is the appropriations section. Subsection A is the executive branch. You'll see on page 15, there's in subdivision 1, you have the fiscal year 2023 appropriations. Subdivision A is general fund, $23,614,294. Subdivision B is transportation fund, $1,502,420. Subdivision C is other funds, estimated in the amount of $35,872,729. And then subdivision D permits the Secretary of Administration to transfer from various appropriations and various funds and from the receipts of the Liquor Control Board, such sums as the Secretary may determine necessary to carry out the purposes of this act to the various agencies supported by state funds. So you'll see fiscal year 2024 appropriations are in subdivision 2 on page 16. Once again, subdivision A has the general fund appropriation. Subdivision B has the transportation fund appropriation. Subdivision C has estimated amounts from other funds. And then subdivision D, once again, permits the Secretary of Administration to transfer appropriations and funds as they may be needed to carry out the purposes of this act. And then moving next to subsection B on page 17 is the judicial branch. Subdivision 1 makes it clear that the Chief Justice may extend the provisions of the collective bargaining agreements to judiciary employees who are not covered by the bargaining agreement. Subdivision 2 is the appropriation for fiscal year 2023, some from the general fund, and then an additional amount from other sources. And subdivision 3 is for fiscal year 2024, once again, an amount from the general fund, and then a secondary amount from other sources to the judiciary. Subsection C on page 18 is the appropriation for the legislative branch. There is an amount appropriated from the general fund in subdivision 1 for fiscal year 2023, and then in subdivision 2, an amount appropriated from the general fund for fiscal year 2024. And then lastly, you'll see the effective date section. These sections are effective on July 1st, 2022, except all of those provisions that are specific to fiscal year 2024, which will not be effective until July 1st, 2023.
Okay. Thank you. Any questions? Otherwise, this has been reviewed and the language here has been recommended and approved by our Government Operations Committee. I assume
in the House as well. Shall we insert this in what section would this go?
It would go in the F section of the bill.
Okay.
Where the Senate has an appropriation section and a little introductory section that replaces that entirely.
Okay.
All 10 of, I think all 11 of the sections, I think we keep the effective dates for the Pay Act in the Pay Act effective dates. But we'll find out, double check it. It's the only thing that gets a little tricky when we bring in another bill, is how they're effective dates.
Yeah, okay, making sure you're aligning them.
Yeah.
House conferees, are we all set with this?
So our House Government Operations Committee has also reviewed this and tells us that this is acceptable to them. So we agree that it should be dropped in the budget. Thank you very much, Ms. Everjali, for, it's a big bill to put together. Thank you for that. So we're good.
All right, thank you, Emerald. Now we have some other language that we wanted to go through. I hope it's ready. Is the provided rate increase finalized?
It's been sent.
We had some discussion about how to write this, and so this is
I wouldn't mind.
the latest version in terms of, we want to understand the outcome or the benefit of the rate increases. And so it's really very much along the lines that was concerned about the language. And the first would be A, and that's been stripped out. And then it's the date based on information. In other words, the agencies that are receiving the benefits have got to report the data for the agency to compile a report. And so this was, I think we've looked at this numerous times. Hopefully this can be the final iteration, but want to take a final look.
It's neutral.
So I've seen the conceptual, have you shipped us the final document?
I thought I did.
Yeah, I'm making some copies, I think, of the items, and I'll be right back.
Yeah. I mean, but everybody's.
We need hyphens and stuff. But that's what editing does. So are you just getting it now?
Sarah's running downstairs right now.
Oh my gosh, poor Sarah, she's gonna get
Yeah.
lost.
She's wearing heels today too, so
I know,
we need to watch that.
that's why I wear, well, because my feet are getting so fat, I can only get into about 2 pairs of shoes.
For as much as you talk about being fat, I have this image in my mind of this colossal person, and you remain yourself.
Yeah, well, clothes cover a lot. The repairman said most people look better with their clothes on.
Every doctor says that.
I think that must be true. Oh, my goodness. All right, so we're waiting for the final.
That's out there on YouTube. I said that's out there on YouTube.
That's all right.
I should you.
Everybody needs to understand a certain amount of humor at this point is what gets us through the day. Considering how my day started, I need a little humor. Oh my goodness. Is there any other language? How about the Highgate? Is that language ready?
So,
Can I say Westland County Airport?
okay, so Senator Kitchell, we've had a chance to review the provider rate increase, and we can accept this. Thank you for working on it.
Okay, thank you. So that's another one we've taken care of.
What section?
It's it's 301.3.
I'm sorry, Peter, what?
So here's the Highgate, and I think we've all seen it.
Here. We'll be out here.
Okay, we actually haven't seen it, but we're about to get it. It's about to be born.
Yeah.
So provider rate increase.
It's a lot of money.
Okay, and that was E, right?
That's what I read yesterday.
I think so. 301 was free.
This was 400,000, right?
Yeah. On the Franklin County Airport, the Highgate language, that this was drafted by Mike O'Grady. The section it would go into would be G300 as part of the economic development section of the back of the bill. And it also is where there's a couple of the VAST related AOT appropriations are made. So they would all go together as AOT appropriations, I believe.
A small question is we're appropriating this amount of money. If it's not necessary, if the full amount is not necessary, what happens to that money?
It would revert because it can only be used solely to address development.
It would not revert automatically. We could put language in to have it revert automatically, but it would, depending on the timing of when it was expended, when you were through the project and you didn't need, if you found that you had money left over, you would find the budget adjustment or process or the budget process that it would pop up in the reversion section when you got past the project and it was clear that there was money left over.
Which is standard.
That's the standard process.
My only concern is that we just not forget it and it's, it's sitting in an account 10 years from now.
But that would, the finance system has got a way of tracking
Okay.
reversions.
Okay.
So it's very clear, solely to address development.
And-
Under control.
Assuming we can find the money to cover this, yes, we accept it.
Right. I know people are still coming in and we've got a couple more bills that we're having to accommodate and we just have to give the message, people think, oh, well, this is not a problem, 100,000 here or something there. And the fact is this budget's pretty well closed out and there's not a lot of flexibility at this point.
And that's just the reason I said, assuming we may at the end of the day need to move $1 here to there just to make the budget balance. But we know how to do that.
My question is, on the retirement language that I drafted, I've given you, did Representative Gannon have a chance to look at that?
Oh,
Is this it?
We've looked at it and I forgot to run it by our GovOps committee. Let my committee just read it for a moment. And my thought is we can tentatively accept it, but I do want to run it by Rep. Gannon.
Okay. And we're printing out copies for Senator Bruce and Senator Wilson.
One of the things that was still out there, and it came up as part of the retirement task force. And that was, could you somehow create an incentive for people to work longer, and if they were working longer, then they weren't collecting benefits. That turned out to be a lot more difficult than it seems, because we have in our experience a number of employees who in fact do work longer. So there'd be no net gain if you're just giving an incentive payment to someone who's already being reflected in terms of in absolute numbers setting the ADAC. And so this is really laying out, and then you can see that the administration, because a lot of this information is going to come from human resources in terms of who's retiring, who's at the or retiring beyond their normal date, and you got a baseline. Otherwise, you're just counting people that you're already getting the benefit from. And so this is to help us understand and giving the responsibility to the Pension Oversight Committee.
Not done, which is a very slow. I didn't send it to anyone besides you.
Teachers actually had to be retired. This is to keep people who are currently employed.
How we talked about.
But it's the similar, it's similar, but it's more retention and workforce. Now, the one thing that people.
wanted it all there.
Some up to 30.
The one thing right now is that there are provisions within the personnel system. If you've got someone who is a really exemplary employee and you really want to have them continue and not retire, you can, with justification, do a base salary increase. So there are ways of incenting people to stay now. So the question really becomes one of what would be the cost, what would have to be the numbers, what would be the return, as opposed to simply giving an incentive, which is more of a workforce stabilization as opposed to specifically the theoretical or the defined benefit back to the pension fund. So this is what we had thought we would do. There had been a request that we simply find 1.4 million and just give out payments, but we did not feel that we had the analysis and the work, that there were a lot of issues associated with that. And so it really required some time and analysis.
I think it's the difference between year one of the pandemic and year three. There was a couple of years ago, there was like money coming in and we were trying to put it in people's hands in the midst of the emergency. I think now we need a more thoughtful and data-driven approach, even if it's not quite as quick.
So we'll hold this, but it's a proposed language that we would add.
So we are good with it, and we're just waiting for that last confirmation from our House Gov Ops Committee. But I've tentatively accepted it. We've emailed it to folks.
Okay, so we're going to assume that you've accepted it
Unless we say it.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
And I should send a copy to Jeanette. And then, let's see, where was my list? We have some other language.
I believe the House might be proposing something on the IT modernization.
Oh, yes.
We just emailed you some, the Technology Modernization Fund and the affecting E105.1 and E105.2. We had offered some language which we had some back and forth on it, and we just wanted to make sure in particular that we retained the requirement that the Department of Labor UI modernization project be reviewed by the JTOC, go through our JTOC process, and that following that review, the funds could be submitted. And so we've shipped that language to you. I don't know if you've received it yet.
Well, it's coming right now. It's moving as we speak.
How about the press?
So the first gray is to make it very clear that this is not how the funds can be used. There's not flexibility around excess receipts.
Yeah.
And which is really good because it keeps money that has been appropriated for IT in the fund if it's not all used. And then the back page is what is the UI related. I like the XX section.
Well, it was, as it's drafted, it does contemplate that the IT projects, DMV and UI modernization would be moved into the general fund contingent position. We talked about that briefly earlier in the week.
Yeah.
This just came in. Do we need a definition for
regional dispatch. Can
I don't.
I forwarded it to
Yeah,
you.
we're not gonna do dispatch right now, so let's come back to it.
Well, I could agree to this because I'm no longer on the Jai Talk committee. I got put on the pension committee.
I love it so much.
Alright, so this is
Well, she said she.
really what number 3 is what was important, and that is that, amounts released, that there's the legislative just like joint fiscal is sometimes authorized, but this is Jai Talk, so that will.
Justice oversight did the same thing with the planning money.
Oh, yeah.
Had to be.
So are we all right with this?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll close
Okay.
that up.
So we can say yes to this?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see, I have a question, that I could have done offline, but I haven't. In E335.1 and E335.2, we had some language that talked about, quote, the form of the budget, and you've added the justice reinvestment. I just want to clarify, are we going to see when we get the budget next year, will we see a line or a group for justice reinvestment too? And where will it be? Will it be in DOC?
So not as it's out of, not the way the Senate had left it, and actually not really the way you had done it with the form of the budget piece that didn't actually create a line item of the
Yeah.
budget. And so if your desire is to create a line item for justice reinvestment 2, it can be done in this budget. We can simply take the base amounts of money out of the regular corrections budget and put them in their own standalone section, much like the Senate did with the crime victims advocates. It would be in the DOC section. If that's the desire of the committee, it's net neutral to do that, or you could demand that the administration separate it out and present it to you in FY24 that way. Either way works. What I just want to be clear, it's not going to be a very large looking amount of money because some of those pieces of justice reinvestment 2 are one time in nature now. Those wouldn't be, they come from carry forward from previous years. They wouldn't be showing up in that new line item of the budget.
The thought is that given that because justice reinvestment 2 will be successful, that there will always be carry forward that would be moved over to this area to be used to be further reinvested. And that's the reason people would like to see it, so that they can watch the money rather than it being lost within other line items at DOC.
So which method, do you have a preference? As Stephanie laid out?
Well, the two were, we do it
Right now.
and we ask the administration to do it.
Right.
I think our preference is to do what you are suggesting for crime victims,
In a
even
similar
though
way.
the structure is different.
Okay.
So let us do it, and then in the BAA and the 24 budget, the executive will fill in the blanks the way we want it.
Well,
You would, what I'm hearing is you want us to just do it right now in the FY23 budget, and then justice reinvestment 2 investments will be budgeted on that line item in 24 coming out of the administration.
Correct.
well, we
That
have,
was our goal.
all right, I think there's agreement. Our concern has always been to keep a fence around that money.
Yes.
And so if that's something that our joint fiscal folk can do now, that we'll take care of it.
Yep.
So do we need to see language or something? like that?
Well, we'll create it in the JFO budget system, and then once it's enacted, it'll have its step ID. We'll probably put a little bit of language in to reference the carry forward pieces that are currently existing to go, it just so that it's clear in language what the total is for available 23, because it's split between base money and one-time money right now, carry forward money. So we'll take a stab at that, and you'll see it as a new line item, and you'll see a little bit of language that we think needs for the transition piece of it.
All right.
Okay, thank you.
Now, we had some discussion and we were struggling, and that is whether we just simply want to E321. And that was what we wanted to do with language there. And or at this point in the process, is it even feasible to try to construct some language? So do you want to come back? Have you made a final decision on that? That's the GA housing
Yeah.
and adverse weather.
So I think where we're landing is we want to keep E321.2. You just ripped it.
You want the adverse weather?
The adverse weather, we're gonna keep the one. So we'll get rid of E321. We'll keep E321.1. Which means people need to watch this next year.
Okay. That's all right.
Yeah, and we have the latest version of that requested from the DCF folks.
So we'll agree to the adverse weather. We do the memory on that.
I just worry about this one. That's a next year concern that people really need to watch.
So, okay, so the language we've got for 321.1 is okay, and we're not gonna, you're gonna agree to what the language of 321.
language.
Yeah, we gave it to them the first day, and I don't know where it would go exactly, but we haven't heard that.
Okay, we're having a conversation about transitional housing. I'm not sure. We need to follow up on that.
So she just reiterated 321.1 is okay, and we're dropping 321.
Yes, that's correct. We're dropping 321 and keeping E321.1. And we're having a conversation here about some language we offered you early on having to do with transitional housing and rulemaking. And I'm lost, so let's put this to the side.
Okay, and then our language, it seems like our 335.2, and that was justice reinvestment to add language, annual budget.
Yeah.
And so, and then the question is Barge added to that.
Yeah, I mean, I just want to be careful that DOC not become responsible for paying for barge. So that's an interesting problem. If you add it in and it's in DOC.
No, so the money would stay in DCF. This is the, we would take the annual DCF Justice 2 budget out because we're creating a line item in the budget. But on the report of Justice Reinvestment 2, the Senate had added, including the DOC investments, they wanted to make sure that the entities were understanding the upfront investments as well. And so we only want to reference that barge is also part of that upfront investment in terms of like diversion.
Okay. So that's a language thing, not a budget thing.
Right,
Exactly.
right.
Okay.
So we can probably close that out. The Justice Reinvestment 2.
Yeah, I'd like to see the language, but I'm totally comfortable. So let's close it out. I'll just read it with interest
Okay.
when we get to read the final bill.
And 335.1 DOC budget struck.
So with the Senate, the House was trying to accomplish that, the line item by amending
Outside of the pension.
this. this form of the budget part of statute.
So what we just did on the annual budget, Justice, makes 335.1 irrelevant. It's
Yes.
just subsumed.
Yeah.
So we can,
That one's closed.
It's all about salary and benefits, yeah.
Feel free to type your reply out.
Just tell them it's outside of the pension. So you're having a conversation there and we're having a conversation here. Sorry, we've just gotten a response from GovOps about the pension, what's called pension oversight language, but in fact, it is about payroll essentially, or pay. It's not about the pension. And the question was, would the longevity incentives be inside the pension? And the answer is no. If there are longevity incentives, they are all as part of the pay system or the HR system. As you were saying earlier, Senator Kitchell, bonuses or other ways to incent people. So it's on that side of the system. It has nothing, it would not nick the pension system at all, correct?
well, no, there are, if the numbers work, you could have, I think it was 700,000 could be the impact, beneficial impact on the ADEC. So it is.
If the numbers work, yes, but we're not asking the pension system to pay something to employees to stay in and work longer.
No,
Correct.
that is
That was
true.
the question.
But it came up as part of that discussion,
Yeah.
and it was one of the items where there was agreement to explore it. And so we're saying we're willing to explore it, but we need to understand all the impacts.
Yeah.
And so your pension from what? Just want to clarify?
No,
what it does?
we've clarified. I'm clear on what it is. So we're good with that. So
Okay.
we're a yes.
All right, okay. Because if you needed more information, Chris Roop is here.
Yep. Okay, thank you.
All right, and he spent more of his life on pensions than he probably.
That's true.
Yeah. Okay,
I have a small copy of the P&A allowance links if you'd like to look at that.
All right, so Stephanie says, remember the personal needs allowance that they could
Yes.
lend for 10 years practically. We want to keep the appropriation in and language to implement as soon as they could. So we have some language and you send it to.
I can't remember now if I sent it to Teresa and Sarah.
You did. Yes, we have it.
Which section though?
Okay.
Which section?
it's
It was originally part of the technical letter because it needed language to go with the money that the Senate put in. But then after the technical letter, we heard that it may not be practical to do it until January 1, 2024. And so what this does is it says to do it if practical by January 1, 2023, but no
language.
later than January 1, 2024.
This
That's
is
really,
standard.
It's not very standard, but.
No, but it's not a state supplement. It's allowance, it's a disregard of income. For their personal needs allowance. And they are just, so they're all it's a Medicaid, it's a Medicaid policy, and that's how much of their monthly income they have available for their personal needs. And the balance all has to go toward their cost of care. So it's not a supplement, it's the amount of the state income disregard or something.
So it's on the state sub for the people that live, the 5,000 people that live
It's in
in.
the AABD.
Yeah, so the personal needs allowance piece is part of so that 15,000 people, 5,000 of them are in residential nursing home or res care settings. And their AABD sub is part of what gets contributed. And so the P&A piece is out of the AABD piece. And I believe that's
No, but a lot of these people don't have AABD. They don't have, AABD is a supplement to the SSI benefit. And some of these people don't have SSI, they're all, say, Social Security, or they might have a retirement. And so when you're calculating out of, say you got $2,000 each month from your retirement, you're allowed to keep $35 or $65 out of that for yourself to have for spending, and the balance you would have to apply toward payment toward the cost of the care.
So, we're only well, I'll go back and double check with them, but this is the language as it came with, going with the amount of money that we put in for the Medicaid covered folk that are in.
Some of them have no relationship to the AABD supplement. They're applied, it's how much of their income that they can keep for themselves for their personal needs, and the balance has to go toward the cost of care to the nursing home and the residential care facility. So it's just, it's the term state supplement. It's not, it's how much of their income, you know, it's excluded for personal needs in calculating their applied income. That's what it is. So this is getting into the technicality of Medicaid applied income, and so I'm just this is the word state supplement, because it's really not, it's an income disregard in, well, maybe I'm getting into the details of eligibility, but you know, to me it's the amount that your personal needs allowance, the income you're allowed to keep in calculating the applied income for Medicaid beneficiaries in long-term care.
I have a different question. If it's all right.
Sure.
So it says shall increase by 10% to the degree practicable, effective January 1, 2023, but no later. I'm, the way that,
I know, the 10% degree, yeah, the degree.
is it saying that 10% is the degree practicable?
No,
or the
it's a
effective-
January date, I think.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to get at, is the issue that the administration brought up after the letter is that the date was hard.
But your language is, it makes it appear like the 10% is the
Right.
question to which the.
So should we-
I think it
Two
should say
sentences
shall
there.
increase by 10% effective January 1, but no later.
Yeah. If
I mean, between January 1.
Yeah, we can work on that, because
Yeah.
that's, and it might appear, so it's the 10%, that would be.
Yeah. Because I was.
Anyway, I think we need to just confirm the language, and maybe
Okay.
it's correct in the way they interpret it, but I would, to me, it's an income disregard in the calculation of applied income.
Conceptually, we understand A, and that is what I thought was coming. I was not anticipating the B. I understand what you're doing, particularly given what we've heard about, oh, we can't figure out how to do the increase for a whole year and a half. I have just, other parts of the,
technical letter from the administration.
excuse me?
I didn't even get to B, I was too busy looking at the state.
Okay, I'm looking at B.
No, I don't think we should put B in, because we don't do those.
We don't do that anywhere else, so
No,
I'm not comfortable with
Well,
that.
I think we'll just see if we can make sure we're using the right words on A, and B should be deleted, because that's, when you start setting that precedent for
Yeah,
one benefit over another, it's a problem.
okay, thanks. So this is being wordsmithed, but I think we all, on this side, we are comfortable with what we're trying to accomplish.
Okay, did we close out C 110? C 110. So we
Yes,
had a lot of discussion about the tobacco funds. Wasn't that part of your
I think that
construct?
was that part of the routine,
yeah, that's the chief prevention officer's
Okay.
work under the.
was that part of the?
Yeah, I think that's what I'm asking. Representative Fagan?
It's done, that's done, closed. I agree, Senator.
Because I thought the package you and Senator Westman put together sort of brought all of that in one place. So I was just wondering if inherent in that we dealt with C-110.
Yes, it did, thank you.
You spent the money, right?
Yes.
So we should close that out.
That's now.
You gotta go. Okay, yeah. So we are losing Rep. Fagan, but we can continue for a few more minutes.
There are Eagle Scouts outside,
Oh, Eagle Scouts?
reading the resolution and congratulating them for their hard work.
1, 2, 2. I'm sorry, and I had one of Grace thinks it's okay.
Oh, you know, that had no money, right?
No, that was just the.
E-22,
This is
the
overall.
new farmer,
He's pushing.
Okay, so Senator Kitchell,
what?
with regard to the longevity criteria, I am hearing from Representative Gannon that he would like to make it abundantly clear that this, if we do this, it is outside of the pension system. So if we could add another sentence, just, and I believe that he's been in correspondence with Mr. Roop, and maybe they can come up with a sentence to add to that language.
Now, you know,
When
that,
when we're all gone and forgotten and somebody tries to pay for longevity out of the pension, it might be a useful thing to refer back to.
well, I think then we need to put in some language that would, we have language about a beneficial impact on pensions, don't we?
Yeah, that reduces future employer pension.
Yeah, so we've already done it.
No, I'm failing to be clear. I think there is a concern that in order to accomplish the longevity, you know, the desire to encourage people to keep working, that those incentives would be offered from pension money, not from the normal budgetary process.
That wasn't necessarily the case. We'll take a look at the language.
Sorry, wish that we caught that sooner.
In some ways, this is, if we're looking at it in this, and within this realm, then we're basically getting into an area of a benefit that should be negotiated through the collective bargaining process.
Absolutely.
And we were looking at it in the context of something that would have a, we would be able to measure a beneficial impact on the pensions, even if it's modest.
Correct.
And so if we want to keep it all outside of pensions, just like the fact that we've got people working right now, and then all we're talking about is an incentive for workforce stabilization or some other consideration. So I'm just thinking that that gets us into contract negotiations, because if it's just a general fund to say we'll pay you to stay longer, then the question is you just do that across the board. You're not getting any gain at all, except if you hit that sweet spot, as Chris describes it, and it's just it's a supplement to wages. So I don't know. I mean, when I was talking about budget neutrality, I was talking about budget neutrality. I wasn't talking about shifting costs over under the general fund to pay out something. And if we say we need to have bonuses or some kind of incentives just to have people work longer, then what that would look like, what the benefit would be. So I don't know, we can make it, maybe there's something we can do, but the fact is it has to be beneficial to the pension fund.
Right, that was our goal.
And the language is clear on that.
Okay, and well, then let us have a chance to chat about this, and maybe Mr. Roop and Rep Gannon can
Okay,
get
they can
together
talk
and have a
about it.
conversation.
You know, otherwise, we're gonna basically maybe come to the conclusion that this isn't anything that really falls within the realm of pensions. It's something that has to be negotiated as part of a contract, and particularly if it's falling to the general fund.
Yeah, I'm sorry that I failed to understand. We've said the words and I haven't fully
Okay.
taken in that you meant on the pension side, and I was thinking it would always be on the general fund side or the general budget
You have
side.
to construct it very carefully,
Yeah.
or in fact, you're not gonna have any benefit on any side except an expenditure.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, Franklin was nothing I committed to, and it was all within the context of, that it was budget neutral, and we may have budget neutrality, then we've got, you know, you can narrow it down saying, well, we could do a lot of things on the general fund side that would be from an actuarial perspective or neutral. But,
Yeah, in fact, very positive.
yeah, so.
Okay, sorry, let us just sit with this a little bit
All right,
longer,
well, maybe Chris can have a
I'll reach
conversation.
out, I'll reach out.
please.
Okay,
Okay.
we're not committing to anything, and obviously it's just, all right, anything else? It's noon at this point. It's our meeting noon, Mary?
Yes, we do have a neat meeting at noon.
Okay. All right, so I think probably this is a good place to break.
Yes.
And then, what time do we want to get back? Do we have more things?
You have some outstanding things, you have ARPA to revisit,
Yeah.
and, I did check what we did in 2019 though for the.
Yeah, is this
no,
language?
25. It is that language.
Okay.
We did it as a dollar amount then as opposed to the 10%, they prefer the percentage.
Okay,
estimate.
how much did we give them back then,
Gave them $25
on top of what they had?
on top.
And then it was like
The increase was $25.
All right, shall we break, and then we've got to decide what time we want to come back. 2 o'clock?
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking, and if we need more time, we can just post it, but let's try for 2.
Okay, because, I've got to get out of Bill,
Yeah, okay.
1 o'clock.
so you need to let the committee know.
Okay, doke. We'll
Alrighty.
see you at 2.
All right, so I'm going to adjourn, this session, and we'll go off.